this is what we're going to be talking about today. So letters from lockdown, creating connections through writing. We've got a wonderful team, academic staff and students from the University of Sussex. It's going to be an interactive session giving you an insight into a new project, including plans for the future. And it's being run by final year students in English in partnership with local churches, libraries and the Brighton Hove Citizens. The project of connected groups of people from across the city, either as letter writers or giving responses to letters through creative writing as a way to combat isolation and loneliness during the pandemic. But I think, as we've discussed over all of our Aging Well sessions, loneliness is something that has existed pre-COVID, and if I'm always desperate to try and find positives. If it's been highlighted through COVID and it's going to be more constructively addressed going forward, then all the better. I mean, I will take everything I can over from the last 18 months. If we can find a positive, we will. So welcome to today. I'm Lucy Payne, I'm a member of the Always Possible team, and I'm a facilitator, and I'm very curious. I'm not allowed to say I'm nosy, but I love having these conversations, and I will be chipping in and engaging relating to all the sessions we've done. We've had I think it's eight webinars so far and 4 podcasts, all of which can be found on the Possibility Club, and with details of which we will put in the chat, because this is a conversation we're keen to ignite and maintain. We don't want to be aging to be thing that we stop talking about again, as we tend to as humans. I want this to be a conversation that keeps going, and that's what we're really passionate about. So our speakers, Graham and Catherine, are about to introduce themselves, but also we have Abby and Shannon from the team. So I will hand over, now we're all here, I'll hand over to Catherine. Welcome.
Thank you, Lucy. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's really nice to see all of you. Thanks so much for coming to our little workshop. So basically, I'll introduce the project. This is part of some work we've been doing at Sussex with the National Literacy Trust. The National Literacy Trust have just started a new literacy hub in Hastings, where there are rather low levels of literacy. So it's targeting that, but so as part of that, we designed a new module in community engagement called Championing Literacy, which I convened last year, and Shannon and Abby with 2 of our students on that module. So it's a finalist module for students of English literature at Sussex. And what it enables them to do is to think about how the skills and the knowledge that they've accrued over their English literature degree can be applied to work in the community, specifically around literacy. And it thinks about literacy really broadly. So it thinks about the power of language and writing and reading to make connections between people, to combat loneliness, to create new communities and get people to empathize with people they wouldn't have otherwise spoken to or connected with. And so it's thinking about all of the broader powers of literacy, not just the practical skills of reading and writing, but yeah, how we can put them into action. So it went really well. We had 15 students all doing different projects, and one of the projects was this letter writing project, Letters from Lockdown, which Shannon and Abby are going to tell you a little bit more about. So I'll pass you over to them.
Yeah, so I was one of the students taking up the module Catherine was just describing this year. And when we first signed up to the module, we obviously didn't really have any ideas about kind of coronavirus and lockdown and how things were going to unfold. But it soon became pretty clear that we wouldn't be able to do any in-person kind of events or planning for our projects. I think the only other option seemed to become the online world. So it could either be an in-person event or an online event, but we kind of wanted to bridge that for people that didn't have that familiarity with technology or weren't as comfortable or happy to use it. So we tried to incorporate more of a physical aspect, which became letter writing. So for our module, we worked with the local church leaders who set us up with some of their local community groups, often the older adult or elderly community, who are the ones that were the most keen to get involved. And they very kindly wrote us letters describing their experiences of lockdown and some of the things that had made them really happy throughout lockdown, some of the things they were struggling with. They really confided about kind of their activities that they had begun to enjoy or things that did stress them out, as we've got some examples as well to show you later. And then using these letters, kind of the emotional response generated from them, because they were very moving, we got another group of individuals together through the local library, and we held a online workshop, which is going to be quite similar to kind of what we're trying to do again today. And within this workshop, people produced poems that were inspired by the letters. So they were around similar themes or emotions, or just around kind of lockdown. And it was basically an attempt to show people that no matter how physically separated we were all connected by the shared experience still. And people kind of bonded over these feelings of like guilt or gratefulness that kind of came up that they didn't really expect through their writing. And then these poems were sent back to the letter writers. So it was an exchange of kind of creative writing and free-flowing thoughts and people bonding over this way of kind of communicating that was so different to what we were used to, where you can't just meet over a coffee and talk face to face. So yeah.
So I'm going to take you through kind of today's outline. Bear with me, my voice is dying a tiny bit where it's going around at work. So it's going to be slightly different to the original project, as rather than gathering new letters and stuff, we're using models from our previous workshop, which will give you time to read and kind of think about during the session. Furthermore, so rather than creating an individual poem, we're making a collective poem coming together. So more reflections of past experiences rather than it being a first-hand kind of present day thing. So after we've looked at the examples as well, we'll come together to discuss the themes and the kind of ideas that came out of the letters. So it might be worth starting to think now how the pandemic did impact you and how that compares with the examples that we're going to look at. And then we'll use that to kind of do a free writing activity prompted by some of the things we're going to look at. And then finally, we're just going to come together and kind of form a poem all together, and then reflect on the process of creative writing as a group and how coming together can alter the way we think or feel about it.
Okay, so there's a few questions there just to start thinking about. But these might be perhaps something we can just kind of perhaps just reflect on these yourself for now, and we'll move on to look at the letters. And then we've got a little free writing activity where you can either respond to the letters or some themes that come out or words that jump out at you from the letters, or you can think about these questions. And these are questions that they asked in the workshop, that the students asked in their workshop with participants who had read like a booklet of the letters in advance. So should we move on to look at the letters? And did one of you want to read out? I just want to give plenty of time for this. So what they've done is they've put part of the letter there, and then they've put the handwritten one on the side as well, so you can see it. But they've typed out so you can read it. So did one of you want to read out this example or part of this example?
Yeah, I don't mind giving this one a read. I picked this one out because this is actually one of my favourites. I really enjoyed the kind of the tone. That's where we've included the handwritten style as well, so you can see kind of how it was that we received it with all the punctuation-y bits and things. So it began with, "I'm an old lady and I'm so grateful for all the help I have been offered. Little things that mean a lot. People passing when I've been at the recycling or rubbish bins, which are quite heavy when I need to hold on with one hand and throw things away with the other. Young people have helped me. Cars often slow down and wave me over the road when I am waiting to cross. A smile or, 'Are you okay?' if I am sitting on a low wall when I am having a rest, walking up hills. Luckily, I have family around the world who all keep in touch by FaceTime. I like to walk and get out as much as I can. Sometimes the days drag, but I keep busy with jigsaw puzzles, crossword puzzles, and books. I love to read and cannot wait for the library to open again. Cooking passes the time. I cook 2 or 3 times a week, usually enough for a couple of days for myself, and I share some with friends who do not cook anymore. They eat a lot of ready meals, not quite the same as home cooked. TV and travel documentaries I enjoy. Otherwise, I'm not a great TV fan. 2 things I really miss, traveling and a haircut."
A haircut. I think we can all sympathise with that. Great, thank you. Should we go on to the next one? Okay, letter example 2. Did one of you want to read this one? I missed haircuts a lot. Abby, did you want to read this one, or should I
I
read?
can do this one.
Okay, great.
Very mixed emotions about lockdown. It's been like trying to travel up a downward moving escalator, constantly working hard to stay in the same place, afraid of stopping in case the circumstances are overwhelming. A constant feeling of guilt. Why do I feel like I have a problem? Many people are suffering hardship both emotionally and financially, and I'm grumpy about a few inconveniences. I've missed my family, especially my mum and son. We talk most days, but I miss the hugs and sitting around a table exchanging stories and family banter. I have walked around the area, backwards, forwards, round and round, in all weathers, with friends who carefully avoid being near me. And something wonderful happened, which has kept my spirits up even on the darkest days. I became a grandparent for the first time, and I'm able to bubble and see my gorgeous new grandchild. Perhaps when this is over, we might have a better understanding of what is really important in life. Take care all and stay safe.
That's lovely. If anyone wants to jot down any words that jump out of them for the free writing thing we're doing next. Is there one more example there? Great. Shall I read this one?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. My experience of lockdown has been surprisingly positive. I am a retired woman with a long history of depressive cycles. From the start of lockdown, I saw that it could be a depressing, lonely, and isolating time. In fact, for me, it has been none of those things. It began with me putting my chair in front of the window, sitting for hours, watching the rain. I saw all the work that needed doing in the garden, but sat all day in the chair, feeling unmotivated and unable to do anything. Then I thought of the letters I could write. It's so good to get a handwritten letter from a friend, especially when you live alone. So I began writing letters, memoirs, poems, text messages. I love the handwriting on this one. Brilliant. Okay, should we skip on to the next one? On some examples from the poetry workshop. So these are examples that people that joined the workshop, so they were people that were also feeling isolated. So I think one of the groups that came was people from the International Network of Women, and other people that would usually come into the library space itself, but because of the restrictions were unable to go there and meet with the people they would usually meet there. So they joined this online poetry workshop. Did one of you ladies want to read out the poems? Shannon?
So there's a couple of examples on this one. They were just kind of short poems that people produced during our workshop session. So the first was called Easter, a Fresh Start. Each day melts into the last. Attempts to remain upbeat are difficult. Sometimes I just want to crawl into a ball and do nothing. Then I get cross with myself and try to change my behaviour, become more energised. Easter is coming. It's time to recharge my batteries and start again. And then I just quickly, because it's so short, the other little one was actually really interesting when he sent it into the chat. It was just what we see on the side. It didn't have a title at that time. So it's an acrostic for the word COVID, and it's so many numbers across our screen. Can one visualize individual deaths? Each one is mourned. So when that came into the chat, that was quite a pressing one, I remember, because we were quite struck by the kind of concept you went for.
Fantastic. Okay, should we move on to the next slide? Okay, so this is where you guys get a chance to do some writing of your own. So this is a free writing activity. So free writing is where you just start writing. You're given a set amount of time. Many of you have probably done this before, but there's some rules here, and you've got to keep to the rules. You've got to keep your pens on the paper for the whole 5 minutes. Don't worry about punctuation, just keep writing whatever comes to mind, and there's no pressure to share it at the end if you don't want to. This is just for you, and we'll reflect on the process of it. What we're going to do is use it to pull out some key themes that we'll then write into our poem that we write together. So maybe think about one of the lines or words or images that you remember that struck you from the letters or from the poems that you just saw. So it might be a feeling, a particular image, a particular word. Keep that in mind, or you could think about, obviously reflect on your own experiences, thinking back to lockdown. Perhaps you want to think about where you are now with the whole pandemic. So should we keep time? We've got 5 minutes. I recommend just keeping time, we'll tell you when it's when 5 minutes is up. So it's 11:20 and we'll go to 25 minutes past. So if you just maybe turn your cameras off or make sure you're muted and just take that 5 minutes, and we'll let you know when that time is up. Okay, ready? Any questions before we start at all? Everyone know what they're doing? Good, nothing in the chat. Okay, I'm going to give it 1 extra minute, so 26 minutes past. Okay. Okay, we are at 5 minutes, so stop writing, put your pens down. Doesn't matter if you didn't get to create a whole full piece, that's not what we're doing here for this activity. Okay, so do you guys want to move on to the next slide and we'll share our thoughts about that? Okay, so does anybody want to share a bit of what they've written? You can put it in the chat and we'll read it out for you, or you can just unmute and contribute if you want to. I'm
going to be brave, Catherine.
Lucy, amazing. Thank
I'm going to do it. A smile at cake in person so dearly missed, or the little things we've not had, so many friends remain unkissed. I got quite philosophical on all my ones.
Was that it?
It was just a little one. I did other ones, Keith, but my other ones,
Oh, all right.
I did
Go
3
on.
little bits. Go on, Keith, your turn next. Go on.
All right. Sorry. This is the first time I've done an exercise like this, so maybe I misunderstood. But I started off, the 3 words that I picked up were depressing, lonely, and isolating. But my response is yes, but not always for me. Lockdown led me into researching my family history. I found cousins and relatives I never knew about, auspicious people. Alexa von Tunzelmann, for example, I've discovered is my cousin. A Sussex professor, Carol Dyehouse, is also a cousin. I interesting things everywhere, people that I never knew about, cousins I never knew about. I've built up a detailed document with family I never realised that existed. Irish, of course, IRA connections, events that are mind-boggling, the stuff of films. I'll stop there. Okay, so
That was great.
I didn't find lockdown. There were elements of loneliness. There were strong feelings of isolation, but I was able to kind of use that breathing space to advantage, and I'm just amazed at what I found out.
I love that idea of breathing space, Keith. That seems really, really great to me. And I think that is something that some people were able to take it as given time. I keep hearing some people talk about it as a lost year, but then there are others like you, Keith, who've managed to see it as breathing space, to do that kind of research and that work that you've always wanted to do. I love the idea of being disconnected from your family, but actually spending that time finding out about family history that you wouldn't otherwise have known.
Yeah, absolutely. I found it just amazing. I'm gobsmacked, quite honestly.
Amazing, excellent. Did anyone else want to contribute theirs?
Yeah, I don't want to be last because mine's very, very angry. Has anyone else got one?
No, go on, Val.
They can come after me and mitigate it somewhat. Despair, deaths caused by Trump and other anti-vaxxers and purveyors of lies. But also the experts or politicians who said, for example, bus drivers don't need PPE, a lie, so many died, and the lie was to cover the fact that we just didn't have enough PPE to give them. So wickedness or stupidity, conspiracy or cock-up, scientists being set up to take, scientists being set up to take the blame at the inquiry, quote, "We were following the science," unquote, the politicians say, end of.
That was excellent. Thank you, Val. That was lovely. I really like that. We were following the science, the politicians say. It was very good. I think that.
And I think anger is a really valuable emotion, Val, because I think we've all had anger and frustration. And
yeah, thank you. I'm not what can I say? I'm not ashamed of it. I do look at the outside world very much and those who are leading us with despair. It's just that I didn't want it to be the last one because it is very downbeat.
Well, I think very powerful though, and plenty to work on there, I think, for our next section activity to this. Does anyone else want to share theirs? Or if you don't, please contribute some little words or phrases from something that you've written in the chat. And if you don't want to share the actual, what words of what you've written, you can always talk about the experience of writing it a little bit and anything that came up for you that was unexpected.
Catherine, I don't know if you can see everybody, but Susie had a hand up to contribute.
Oh, I can't, but go ahead, Susie. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you. Hello. Okay, so I find it now. Nothing to complain about. Minor inconveniences brushed aside. The bigger picture, wide open window, breathe. The roller coaster time has locked us all in, and we can start to feel what is important, what brings us joy, the little things, birds singing in the dawn, the rain through trees and walking with the dog, delight to have my legs and feet still strong, a wish to sing out loud my own song and not be shy of sharing. Writing every day since August 2020, when I decided to challenge myself to write a poem a day as post-corona recovery, and heard from Ben Oakrey at Charleston last week, reading from his children's book, Every Leaf and Alleluia. He says, poetry is no longer taught in schools.
That was wonderful, Susie. I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much. And I love the way that you end your poem with poetry is no longer taught in schools. I thought that was very, very meaningful. And I really liked that breathe came up again. So we've had breathing space from Keith, and breathe, and the window, the image of the window being open and almost like letting in those tiny sort of things that you wouldn't really usually think about or consider or have the time to reflect on. I just noticed that Graham has joined us in the room. Graham, are you there?
Hello, I am here. My apologies, I got hideously stuck, but I am here, and I just caught the end of what Susie was reading, and I thought that was fantastic, actually, really, really moving. So thank you for that. Good. And
wonderful. I wondered if you wanted to introduce yourself very quickly. Sure. Before we crack on.
Absolutely, if this is a good moment, absolutely. So welcome everybody. I don't know why I'm saying welcome, I'm late. But
yes, welcome, Graham.
Thank you.
Welcome, Graham. Yeah, I like, come on, Keith.
So I'm Graham Pettingham. I'm a senior lecturer in English here at the University of Sussex, and alongside Catherine, I've been running our module on called Literacy Champions, Championing Literacy, and where this project has come from. And one of the things that I'm doing is working with the National Literacy Trust on hopefully quite a broad campaign to encourage literacy and promote reading and a love of reading amongst communities that might not read a lot, might not have access to books for all kinds of reasons. And really that's just a general aim to get more people in the southeast, because it's very much focused on the southeast generally, and particularly along the south coast, get more people reading, and especially young people. And that's where this project has come from, because our students on this module are all English literature students, and they're using those skills and passions they have to encourage people to celebrate reading in lots of different ways and lots of different forms, and this project is just one of those. So it's turned into a bigger scheme, which we're hoping to take forward over the next few years, and start to really have an impact on people's lives, hopefully. But this is where we are, and I think Shannon and Abby are fantastic ambassadors for the kind of work that we can do, to be honest.
Thank you, Graham, for introducing yourself. I put you on the spot there a little bit,
No
but I thought just give people a moment to like have a look back over their writing that they've done in the free writing activity. And just if you could, anyone who hasn't spoken or would like to, of course, can now, but if you could put some more words in the chat for everybody. So that might be words that really strike you from your writing that came up when you were doing your free writing, or any little phrases from your free writing that came up. So far, ones that have been the most common, because what we were thinking we'd do next is have a little look through the words in the chat and pull out some key themes that will then be the themes for our poem that we write collaboratively together. So I'll give you just one more minute just to put some more words or images in the chat. Time did come up a lot there, didn't it, Abby? I can see you've put that in the chat, and I noticed that in Susie's poem. And it also, Susie's poem, the way that she talked about time seemed very much to respond to that letter that talked about the escalator moving forward, that kind of powerless movement of time.
I found it really interesting in the workshop we did as well, because people kind of interpreted time in so many different ways. Some people were like, we've got so much time to do things, whereas other people were kind of like the endless kind of time stretching out before them, which was interesting.
Going on forever as well. Yeah, definitely. That's come through what Lucy contributed. Queuing is an interesting relationship to time, Keith. That's true. Excellent. Using time, writing. Emptiness. That's interesting, Penny. Rage. Unwinding, growth. There's some lovely words coming out here. So what we thought we'd do here is maybe pick one or two. Time drinking too much wine, embarrassingly. I think we can all sympathize with that, Keith. Shall we pick one word, or shall we pick two? Uncertainty, death, creativity. It might be interesting to think about how creativity is linked to this, to uncertainty as well. What do you think, Abby and Shannon and Graham? Do you think we should have one word or two? Because I'm thinking.
I like the idea of two, to be honest. I think uncertainty and time are really interesting ideas in what people are saying there, because they're so closely linked as well. But actually, you know, when we're uncertain about something, it's usually because we don't know what to expect in the future, or we might not be sure how to understand something in the past. And it feels like like Keith said, being caught in a decision. There's a decision to make, but you're not sure how to make it. I think it's a really interesting experience.
Okay, so I've added breathe there. So we've got three keywords now: uncertainty, time, and breathe. The reason I've added breathe is because it came up twice. And I also think, I don't know about you, but I've become so conscious of my breath in so many different ways during the COVID pandemic. And I think that is something that poetry can do and reading can do, is to make you conscious of your breathing. So I think this is a really interesting relationship that we might have between this particular, you know, control and breathing and COVID and poetry maybe can come together there a little bit with our themes. So I added that in. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to use these as our keywords: uncertainty, time, and breathe. And we're going to just throw some more words in the chat that relate to those words. So it could be anything that you associate with any of those three words. So uncertainty, time, or breathe. It might be, you know, something to do with you know, time could be to do with having a cup of tea. It could be tea, you know, it could be cup of tea. That would be fine. That can go in the chat. Anything that comes to mind. So this is just a word association exercise. So hopefully that's great. Thank you, Keith. That's perfect. So just throw them all in there and we can have a look at them. And then we're going to try and incorporate more of these words into our poem. I love that idea of time allowing for connections, Nora, that you've just put in, because that came up in Keith's bit of writing as well. Definitely commuting. That's completely having to go back to that. That's been a bit of a shock for my experience of time, for sure. Okay, amazing. Should we go on to the next slide? Connecting. Excellent. Okay, so we've got some key words here. Obviously, our key themes are time, uncertainty, and breath, or breathe. And we've got some other people have responded there in the chat to those keywords. What we thought we'd do is we'd collaboratively write a poem. So if everybody could take a minute to write one line, now that can be, there's no limitation there on how long your line is, but bear in mind it's a line, it's not a sort of sentence or a paragraph, it's just a line. So if you take a moment to each write one line and then try and incorporate one of those key words, one of these words that has come up, or images that have come up since we've decided on our keywords, but definitely in relation to those three themes: time, uncertainty, and breathing or breath. And then if you put your line, each of you compose a line and put it in the chat, and we'll try to construct that together into a poem. And we'll move them around. Shannon and Abby, one of you, whilst people are writing, would you be able to capture these lines and stick them in a Word document and share your screen? I'm conscious of my internet connection. If I share my screen, it might.
Abby, would you maybe be able to, because I'm showing the PowerPoint, otherwise it'll disrupt the the slides in the background.
Yeah, no problem.
So Abby, if you just take the lines, put them in a Word document in the order that they're coming in, starting with vowels there, and then pennies. And then what we'll do is once everyone's put a line in, we will share our screen. You can share your screen, and we'll move them around together.
Oh my God.
I love Penny. That feels reflective of the workshop and COVID. I hope not the workshop. Are you capturing these, Abby? It's quite a lot of work for you.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay. Has everyone been able to put something in? we got something from everyone? Graham, I can't see something from you in there.
I was thinking of just putting one on Word actually, which is that. So yeah.
Oh, powerful word. Okay, excellent. How about that? Okay. All right. Have you got these, Abby? You've got them? Do you want to end the screen share there and share your screen, Abby? So if Shannon, you end your screen share, Abby can share hers and show us the Word document that she's got there.
Just a sec, I just need to grab the last two.
And then we'll all be tasked with moving these around to make our group poem.
How do I share my screen?
It's the green button just at the bottom of the Zoom call there. And then you should. Fantastic. Okay. This already looks like a poem. Should we read it out as it is? Graham, would you like to read it out?
I can, yes, that's fine. Okay, so we're going to move these things around, I'm guessing. So, part of life lost. Who are these people I'm being asked to co-create with? I've never seen their faces. Lone parent, 10th floor, 3 kids, broken lift. Connecting with nature as time slipped by reassured me I'd still be here. I felt grounded. Embracing the simple pleasure of the sunrise to celebrate a fresh new day. Tick, tick, tick. Seconds become minutes, become hours, become days, become weeks. Thank you, COVID, for giving me time. Weary of now wasting that wasted time. Uncertain times call for deepest breath to feel the moment and find way through to you. Breaths for all time, despite one's uncertainty of the outcome. Uncertainty, my enemy and friend. This is a waste of time. Poetry for the soul. I'm not sure oops was meant to be in there, but I'll say oops as well. Simplicity restrictive.
Thank you, Graham. I think that's great. I think we can keep oops in there. That's fine. I particularly like the way that this has come out. Part of life lost. Who are these people I'm being asked to co-create with? I have never seen their faces. Lone parent, 10th floor, 3 kids, broken lift. So it kind of starts with this like
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What do you make of that, Keith?
Well, lone parent, 10th floor, 3 kids, broken lift. Who are these people I'm asked to co-create with? I've never seen their faces.
That's lovely. Yeah,
that works
I think
well.
Yeah, should we move lone parent to before who are these people I'm being asked to co-create with?
I would say yes.
Excellent. Okay. So what about this though? Part of life lost, lone parent, 10th floor, 3 kids, broken lift. Who are these people I'm being asked to co-create with? I've never seen their faces. I think that's quite good because it's this idea of these anonymous names and faces that the COVID pandemic kind of brought up and exposed those inequalities, those anonymous people behind the scenes. I think that's brilliant. Should we have a full stop after I have never seen their faces? I mean, that's quite powerful. We can discuss this.
Go on then.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, what about the next bit? What do we make of this?
I think we could prop the oops in there.
Excellent.
I don't know, it's more than oops, isn't it? And part of life lost, that could go in with those other 3, couldn't it? Or is that meant to be at the beginning? Certainly goes with the subsequent 3 lines. I don't see how you can make one poem out of this because you've got extremes of feelings. I mean, this person is not going to be able to get out into nature to feel wonderful about it. And even if he or she could, the kids would be running riot probably, or very upset. And I don't think you can turn this all into one poem. I really don't.
I like that idea, Val. Oh, go ahead.
Go on. Well, you know, that's opinion. I think you can. I think that follows quite nicely the way it sits at the moment. Connecting with nature as time slipped by reassured me I'd still be here. I felt grounded.
I don't.
Embracing
She or she wouldn't feel grounded, Keith. That's bollocks.
But we could put part of life lost again. We could repeat it there, couldn't we? Part of life lost, those first few lines, then part of life lost, connecting with nature, because it's lots of different experiences, isn't it? That's what we're covering.
You could look out the window and see the birds, but you wouldn't feel grounded. You'd feel connected with nature, but you would not feel grounded.
Oh, this is a bit analytic, isn't it?
Well, isn't poetry meant to be? I don't know.
Isn't part of the point? It's diverse voices.
I thought this was kind of spontaneous and make use of what was presented.
It is spontaneous. I think this is quite spontaneous, but I like the idea that we're all having to reflect on it a little bit and move it around.
Yeah, when you're having your dinner, you wouldn't stick your trifle in with your beef curry, would you, Keith? I mean, both things are valuable.
Val,
I'm finish, please.
Val, I'm vegetarian.
Can I finish, please? Both things are very valuable in their own right, but you wouldn't try and mix them in a meal, yeah? But I get that some of these things can be joined in with the existing 4-5 lines, but not feeling grounded, no.
Right. Thank you, Val. Peggy, was it Penny? Sorry. Penny, did you want to say something? Thought you were coming in there.
Computer's doing something silly. Yeah, I was just saying I thought the poem was supposed to be diverse voices, so they don't have to be internally consistent. Personally, I love the line, lone parent, 10th floor, 3 kids, broken lift. I thought it was the most real line anyone had written so far.
Yeah.
Not terribly conventional.
Excellent. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's actually quite interesting, those two words, if we do look at it and kind of from what Val's been saying as those kind of clashing voices, the fact that we've also got the 2 single words of simplicity and restrictive clash in themselves. It's like one of the speakers in the poem is kind of opting for that simplicity and the nature and the connection, and the other one's kind of seeing the restrictiveness of the lockdown. So maybe that could be an interesting way of approaching it.
I like that. Thank you, Shannon. I mean, maybe also we could have these two separate stanzas of the same poem. So perhaps both stanzas start with the part of life lost. So just the first one is simply part of life lost, lone parent, 10th floor, 3 kids, broken lift. Yeah. Who are these people I'm being asked to co-create with? I have never seen their faces. And then new stanza. Okay, fantastic. And then we've got this much more, like you say, much more back to nature, simplicity type section here.
I'm thinking in, I am off mute. I'm thinking in terms of how the next line's written. Maybe I felt grounded could be taken into the next line and maybe put like in the middle or something, kind of like connecting with nature as time slipped by, reassured me I'd still be here. Because I felt grounded is those times maybe when that writer felt connected with nature. If you know what I mean.
Sounds like a good idea.
Because we don't always feel connected, do we? Let's face it.
That's great, Susie. That's a lovely idea. Yeah. Abby, would you take I felt grounded onto a new line, just put new paragraph. Sorry, I was gonna
say I really like that, because that part of life lost, it feels like a negative thing, but it doesn't have to be. You know, you might have lost a bit of the life that actually was causing you a lot of stress and anxiety, and now you found that connection with nature, and actually you don't miss the bit of life that's been lost. So I think that's a really interesting kind of tension between the two stanzas we've got here.
I was also thinking that the uncertainty, my enemy and friend, might work really well here as well, to kind of change the tone a bit more and being, you know, making it slightly more grounded. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe after the fresh new day, the uncertainty, my enemy and friend.
Lovely. Okay. Perhaps we need a title for our poem. We could take one of the lines as a title.
Maybe we should finish it first.
Well, I was thinking, what a great, maybe a good title for the poem would be "This is a Waste of Time."
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, go on.
I think it's quite fun. I mean, it's up to you guys. But
Oh, yeah. Is this
you could turn it into a question. I mean, I don't think it's a waste of time, which is why I like the line so much. Amazing. So then what we left with, we've got the tick, tick, tick line, the thank you, being wary of not wasting time.
Weary. Is it meant to be weary or wary?
Who wrote that one?
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
It's me. So I was thinking of it as in we had that whole year and it was like, oh, how are we going to make the most of this wasted time? And now we've obviously come out of it. We're kind of on the other side and it's all that we did achieve and do in that year.
And we're all exhausted by it. So we can't.
Yes, I agree. Weary is right. It's just that.
Okay.
I see.
Weary.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. Make banana bread. That's about it. Yeah.
Okay, so what should we do with this last bit then?
Ooh.
I quite like starting it with the tick, tick, tick line.
Yeah. And then we'll put in the bits about time. Why don't we try and put every line with time in after that? Thank you, COVID, for giving me time. Weary of now wasting that wasted time. Uncertain times. Breathes for all time. This is a waste of time.
I like that. That's perfect. Let's keep it like that, and then we can end with that.
Yeah.
And then we could have the 4 lines at the end as like the final thing. Poetry for the soul. Oops, simplicity restrictive.
Yeah, I like that. Excellent. Okay, this is our poem. Does anyone want to read it through from the beginning? I think it's lovely. Okay.
Part of life lost. Lone parent, 10th floor, 3 kids, broken lift. Who are these people I'm being asked to co-create with? I've never seen their faces. Well, someone else read now.
Part of
Part
life
of
lost.
life lost.
Oh, go on, Keith. You keep going. You do the whole thing. Go on.
Part of life lost. I felt grounded, connected with nature as time slipped by, reassured me I'd still be here, embracing the simple pleasure of the sunrise to celebrate a fresh new day. Uncertainty, my enemy and friend. Tick, tick, tick. Seconds become minutes, become hours, become days, become weeks. Thank you, COVID, for giving me time. Weary of now wasting that wasted time. Uncertain times call for deepest breath to feel the moment and find the way through to you. Breaths for all time, despite one uncertainty of the outcome. This is a waste of time. Poetry for the soul. Oops, simplicity, restrictive.
Yay! Amazing. I think that's great.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Good on you, Keith, for reading it all too.
Yeah, read very well. Read excellently. Fantastic. What should we do with our poem? I'm trying to think what we're going to do with it. I want to keep it. I might print it out and put it on my office wall.
Oh my God.
I will, and I'll put all of your names under it as authors. Perhaps we can send it round to you guys. Do you have their email address, Lucy?
We can share it in the Possibility Club. So let's share it with all our community as part of, and ask them if they can add some lines. Let's make it a discussion. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. That would be so great. Excellent. Thank you so much, all of you, for contributing to that. I think that's wonderful. Should we go back to our slideshow?
Yeah, let's do that.
Collaborative working online is tricky, so you all did an excellent job of that, I think.
Well, it's a start.
I thought it was wonderful. Okay, let's go to the next one. Right. Oh yes, so initially we had this in group work, so you would all be in tiny groups working on your little poems together, but we did it as one big group in the end. So does anyone want to offer a reflection on the process of creative writing as a group? Do you think reflecting together, what did you notice about the different reflections that we had there?
There's some really different moods, wasn't there? Some really different feelings. I think Penny was right that, I mean, I have to be honest, I think my line was quite a safe one. I liked some of the more difficult ones, because that's where the magic happens, isn't it?
Definitely, I thought so. And also, you know, what Val was saying, that like the experiences are so vastly different, that bringing them to what is the impact of bringing those different voices together in one poem and trying to make them cohere and be meaningful was really a struggle, I think.
Well, I think if you're going to make it work as a group activity, you need to establish a kind of a mindset that says we're going to work together, because otherwise it's very easy to get drawn into conflicts and, you know, kind of subtexts and not go forward with the creative process, if that makes sense.
That's a good point, Keith. And I think also, you know, writing poetry is a very like personal experience, isn't it? And I think some people as well, Val, I liked the way that you had an idea of not so much writing about your own experience, but kind of trying to represent the experience of someone who wasn't here to represent their own experience, you know, and how that must have felt, how isolating. And the sense of like space that you created in that line, I think everybody really loved that, with the little dashes in the tall block of flats. I thought that was really smart and very meaningful. Okay, I mean, one of the things about this is that we're trying to kind of work together to understand how we all experience the pandemic differently, and how we think about how we feel about it looking back. Does anyone want to offer a reflection on how they feel about it looking back? And do you think that writing poetry in this way is something that could help people create a collective understanding or diversify our understanding of these sorts of experiences, which we were all atomized in our own little worlds, but we were all experiencing this kind of human crisis?
Susie's got a hand up, Catherine.
Oh yeah,
she may not
go
be able
ahead,
to see.
Susie.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I agree with what you were saying, that the diverse voices are excellent, really good, and the tower block. What I did think, though, was this thing about who are these people that I'm being asked to create with, that we probably should have done introductions at the beginnings, and so everyone could have seen each other's faces. Because I think that if we're working together, and especially on Zoom, that would really just give you a sense of the community that you're working with, because it is a bit like working in the dark.
I do agree with that,
right
except I've attended some of these events where some people have spent 3 or 4 minutes talking about themselves, and by the time you get round to it, most of your hour and a half is finished. I mean, it would be great if people could be disciplined. Yes, indeed, I agree, Susie, and just say 1 or 2 things about themselves. Yeah.
I completely agree. I agree with both of you. I think because it is a personal thing, and you're offering, and it feels like you're offering up a personal reflection to a stranger, which you haven't met, which is really tricky. And also, yes, Val, disciplining people in online workshops is so tricky. It's really hard to get people
Yeah,
to
I can imagine.
time and stuff. So you tend to kind of just be like, here's some activities, let's go for it. And
But the power of the mute button, but it can upset people. You just mute them
That's
halfway
true.
through. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I have sat in conversations and wondered when I was going to get my chance to say anything on Zoom.
This is why it's so nice. It's a small
in,
group,
isn't it?
Susie. We were quite pleased it was a small group, so we could just make it one big conversation.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely a challenge. Yeah.
I think we've got some really, really different and really creative voices in the room, and I think that was really wonderful. I really, really enjoyed that, hearing from all of you. And Susie, you're a bit of a pro, are you? You've been doing a lot of creative writing.
Yes. Yeah, I've always written poetry, but I decided to take it seriously, or not be shy, like I said.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Have you been sending it anywhere? Have you sent it on? Have you submitted it to newspapers or anything?
Not yet. I've released a couple of things online. I've done I did like a 20-minute set that my friend built in the middle of lockdown, built a stage, which he called, what did he call it? Oh gosh, honestly, a concert, box concert, that's what he called it. So, and he set up all the text so that we could just record whatever we wanted for up to half an hour. So yeah, that was an amazing bonus, really, to have that. Yeah, but that I haven't actually published anything yet. That is the plan.
I was just thinking we should all look out for that. If we see it in any local newspapers or magazines or anything, that would be lovely. And yes, okay. Should we move on to the next slide?
I could share the box concert link on the chat if you want.
That would be great. Yes, please do, Susie. Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Graham, are you still there? Would you like to come in and talk a bit about looking ahead and the South Coast Literacy Campaign?
I certainly can, yeah. I'm also wondering whether people have got, because I have my Zoom set up on gallery view, and I don't know if other people do. And so I'm seeing everybody at the same time, which is quite nice because I get to see all of you when I'm speaking. But if people are looking at just the speaker, then you've probably just got a big image of me right now, which is very, which might not be what people want particularly.
No, not at all. You're wonderful.
Graham, I don't have that option. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options on my PC, and I don't have that particular one.
Okay, everyone might be slightly
Side by side mode.
Yep, so mine says side by side gallery.
No, so mine's
wow.
side by side mode. How many people are we? Well, I've got everybody in side by side mode. They're not side by side, but
Okay.
everyone's there.
Shannon, if you end the screen share, we can probably see people a little bit more clearly on there. There we go. Is everyone able to see everyone now?
Hopefully we can see a few more people.
There should be a little button at the top, in the top right hand corner. It says view, and if you click on that, it should have an option for gallery. And
yes, well done.
It's a little bit nicer when you see all the little faces on the screen. Fantastic. Okay.
What
yes,
happens
Graham.
when you want to show a slide though? Because that's almost filled the screen.
Yes, that's the thing. So it disappears when you share a slide, or you can make, I think, little 6 little boxes that hover around, but it is a bit.
Yeah.
Of the 13 of us who are here, how many of us are over 55?
Oh, there's a question.
Yes, so it's supposed to be for aging well, and yet only 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 13 of us are actually over 55. I find that a bit odd.
Why do you think that is, Penny? Do you think that was doing it online, or do you think that's?
I have no idea. One of the things I found very difficult about this and the event I went to on Friday was I was completely in a fog about what they were supposed to be about. I did think it would be more about encouraging older people to meet each other and to support each other in writing as an empowerment exercise. And Friday I was very disappointed because I felt I was being lectured by young people on subjects I already knew a lot about. And this one, it's been interesting. Yeah. It's been
Which one was that? I don't know if anyone else has got their booklet in front of them, but I'm disappointed about that because I'm one of the two older persons rep for community works, and I'm going to do a report on all these, well, not all of them, but the important ones like this.
It was Emily and the Time for Befriending on Friday. So it was Emily launching the new Time for Befriending project.
Right.
It wasn't clear from the publicity I saw that that's what it was.
Then there were more people wanting to befriend than wanting to be befriended. Is that the explanation? Which is
it was the launch of it. So what Emily was looking to do is to start a series of workshops looking at what the next phase of that project would be, because they've obviously had a lot of new people getting involved, wanting to friend and befriend. So I think it's doubled in size, her community over lockdown, and she wanted to know how that would evolve going forward.
Right. Okay. Does that answer your issues, Penny?
Well, I mean, there isn't an answer. You know, the events have happened. I've had my experience. It just makes me wonder, you know, next time I see Aging Well, I'll have to take more care to try and find out what the thing's about. I mean, I'm very new to Brighton. I've only been here 3 years. Yeah, it's all a new world to me. And of course, poetry is wonderful. And, you know, it's never a waste of time really to be spending time on poetry, even with complete strangers whose faces you haven't seen. But I'm really shocked if it really is true that poetry isn't being taught in schools anymore, because I had the great fortune of being taught English by a poet. So, you know, it's I think it's terrible.
Who said that? Is that Graham who said that? No, is that true?
Was it Susie?
Yeah, it was Ben Oakrey who told us when I saw him at Charleston a couple of Sundays ago. He was, he's
a poet and author. That's who he is.
Yeah. The Famish Road and many other wonderful stories. It's Charleston have every year, they have a short story event over a weekend called, oh my God, anyone remember? Short something. Charleston. Anyway, I've often gone to, he said, it was Ben who said that it's no longer on the curriculum learning poetry by heart, which is like a key. And in fact, I was thinking we could do a little, if that is true, we could do a little project on just making sure that the kids get opportunities to learn out of school if they're not doing it on the curriculum. No point trying to fight the system is my.
Oh my God, I'm fighting the system all the time, then, dear.
And then non-violent direct action, Val. You just got to get on and do what needs doing.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I've been a teacher for God knows how many years. I'm retired now, but I'm still very active in union affairs. I'm on the committee, and I'd like to know whether this is actually true, because we're always complaining to the government about what they're doing to the curriculum. I know people are being taught very, very abstruse, if that's the right word, probably not, bits of grammar that you don't need ever in your life. And they're teaching it to 9-10-year-olds. And I don't know how much space there is for poetry, but it doesn't require much teaching time to say to children, this is a poem, take it home and learn it. And the one who can take turns reading parts of it like we've done.
There's more to teaching poetry than making children learn it by heart, because we weren't made to learn things by heart when I was at school, but lots of things I read at school still stick because they're poems and I read them and loved them. And because I was taught English by a poet who encouraged us to read and write poetry, and he also encouraged us all to write. So I think there's more to teaching poetry than making kids learn poetry.
I know that. Yeah, I mean, equally valuable is creative writing, and that's being sidelined as well because of all this damn grammar.
Yeah.
So I agree with both of you. I mean, I think learning poetry by heart was very valuable to me, and also I did loads of creative writing, and got a lot of gold stars for it. And
I think
But
that's probably
Now
Graham
children
and
don't
Catherine.
necessarily have the chance to do so much, I don't think.
Graham and Catherine, what are the next steps? Obviously, we've sparked a heated debate, which is always good. But
yeah.
what are the
Absolutely.
next steps in terms of your project?
This
Well,
is that's one of the debates we do have in the module, I think, about that, isn't it, Graham? About literacy.
It completely is, and I think the rub is somewhere in the middle. Actually, what's happening in secondary schools, I think poetry is being taught, but creative writing is very much being squeezed out, and that's the story. So it's more about learning, the history of a poem or analysing it, which has value, obviously. But I think children are less and less getting the opportunity to learn how to write their own poetry, which is also a problem. And that's something that myself and several colleagues in the School of English here are trying to do things about, actually. And this is one of them. I've got another colleague who runs creative writing workshops for young people in schools with some of our students as well. So it is a concern, I think, for us, because creative writing, amongst other things, helps you to write well. It's a skill in itself. But in terms of what we're doing next, so the module that Abby and Shannon did and that Catherine and I lead is running again in the spring. So we'll have another set of projects that students are getting involved with. We might do something similar to this again. Depends if people want to get involved with this again. But we are doing an exhibition at Jubilee Library, which is the outputs from the module from last year, which actually Shannon and Abby might know when that's starting. That's starting very soon, I think, isn't it?
It actually started today, yeah. So it's Library Week. So it's this week. So they've basically blown up all those. We showed you some of the letters at the beginning. Unfortunately, there wasn't the opportunity to show you all of them as well. Val, a lot of the things you were saying about anger, there were a couple of letters that came through in very similar themes that maybe it would have been nice to see some of those. But yeah, they're displaying them at Jubilee Library along with some of the poems that were written in our original workshop in March for people to go along and see. I think it's also interesting, Penny, what you were saying about kind of the audience that has shown up to this, because we had originally hoped to kind of do our workshops and things in person, but it was kind of COVID that made that not possible. And then this has kind of worked today because it's still kind of a similar replication of the event. But I wonder if kind of something like this, but in person, would maybe be more successful or something.
I think as well, a lot of it is based around small group work, like putting you in small groups and getting you to kind of have a chat about your experiences and write together in small groups. And if you don't get the amount of people coming to the workshop, like you say, Penny, that means that it seems that there are more people there facilitating who are younger, not enough older people there to talk about their experiences. So that is something I think probably would be much easier in person in a lot of ways. But yeah, if any of you are available to get along to the exhibition at Jubilee Library in Brighton, it would be great to just pop along and see. You can read some of the letters that the older people wrote, and that the women that attended the workshop contributed as well. And we're going to, like Graham says, we're going to be repeating this again in the spring. So this is something that we're kind of hopefully creating loads more engaged students to go out there and do more of these projects and workshops, and hopefully in person as well. But I really enjoyed it. I love your poem. I think that poem that you all co-wrote was fabulous, and I'm definitely going to be sticking it up on my wall.
And share it in the Possibility Club, Catherine. I've just put the link to the Aging Well Possibility Club discussion, which has been going on for almost a year. We started these conversations at the end of last year, so do pop it in there as well.